Hi everyone, my name is Susie Q and I am the owner and maker of Glitter with Susie Q. If you like the content that you're seeing, please like, subscribe, and share. You can also connect with me by Facebook, Instagram, and email. Today we are going to be using stencil vinyl in order to make this pregnancy and infant loss awareness ribbon. Come join me to see how we make this cup. This video is going to be a little bit different than my normal tutorials. As I am showing you how I'm doing the process of this cup, I'm not really going to be talking about the steps that I'm taking to make this cup. I'm more so going to just be talking about Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month. So if you have any questions on the process that I did in order to make this cup, please leave a comment below. Let me know where you're struggling or where you need more direction, and I'll be happy to help you. But I just want to spread more awareness on pregnancy and infant loss with this video than I am about totally explaining how to make this cup. But again, if you have questions, please let me know, and I'll be happy to answer them. So in 1988, President Ronald Reagan declared October as a month to recognize the unique grief of bereavement parents in an effort to demonstrate support to the many families who suffered a loss of pregnancy or an infant loss. October 15th is the actual day of remembrance, but October is the full month of spreading awareness and learning more about the tragedy that people who have had a pregnancy loss or an infant loss suffer. So my story starts with I've had 3 losses in my time of trying to conceive and have children. I have been super blessed. I have 2 amazing, beautiful, loving, caring children. And I'm an incredibly lucky person because I got the gift of babies. There are many people who go through these pregnancy losses or even infant losses, and they are not as fortunate as I am that their rainbow babies never come. So my goal for this video is kind of just spread awareness, and you kind of never know what people are going through in their personal life. So just try to be kind to everybody, because you really never know deep down what people might be going through. So that's kind of just a brief synopsis on my story on what has happened. Hey everybody, real quick side note, if you haven't done so already, will you hit that subscribe button, and then also will you hit that like button? I'm really trying to grow my channel, and that is the best way for your channel to grow, to have people subscribe and to have people like it. So do me a favor and hit the subscribe and the like button. Back in 2018 was the first time that I suffered the very first miscarriage loss. I was relatively early in the pregnancy. I believe I was 6 weeks along, and unfortunately, my baby didn't make that pregnancy. When that happened, I, of course, was incredibly distraught, very upset. Both my husband and I were. it's hard to put into words the emotions of losing somebody you never met. It's almost an impossible task to do. But I think the more we talk about it, the more we normalize it, and the hopefully better it will be for people who have to experience this in the future. So when I went through my first loss, I really didn't want to tell anybody. I thought that I was the only person, even though logically I knew that wasn't true. 1 in 4 women experience a pregnancy loss. And I knew that fact, but I really didn't understand that I wasn't alone. So I just kind of, I told my close family, I told my close friends, but really outside of that, I didn't really want to talk about it. So fast forward to about 10 months later, I found out I was pregnant again. We were over the moon, ecstatic. We were so happy. And then at that point, about 8 weeks later, we found out that I had miscarried again. It was very tough. It was incredibly sad, again. And I ended up going through to see a fertility doctor. We thought that it was abnormal. I was a normal, healthy person in my early 30s. I shouldn't be having these troubles. Turns out I had a tumor growing on my ovary, and we were like, okay, here's the problem. So we removed the whole ovary, and that's kind of where we left it. Almost a year to the day that I found out that I was pregnant with the first, I found out that I was pregnant with the third. And we, again, over the moon, ecstatic. We were just so happy. And that pregnancy turned into our first child. He is now 6 years old. He's thriving. He's amazing. We were, again, over the moon, super happy. Just so happy that we were finally thinking we were getting our baby, and we did. But during that entire pregnancy, I was a nervous wreck. Whether I actually showed it or didn't show it, I was just totally and completely a nervous wreck. And it all turned out to work out great. Our oldest is amazing. We love him very, very much. About 1.5 to 2 years later, we decided we wanted to try for a second one. At that point, I wasn't really nervous about it because we fixed the reason why I was having miscarriages. I had a tumor on my ovary. We were, there wasn't a problem anymore. Turns out I miscarried again. I got pregnant. We were super excited. I wasn't expecting a miscarriage at all because, again, I thought we had solved the problem. And so when I miscarried, I was probably even more distraught and heartbroken than I was for the first two because it just really wasn't even on my radar anymore. So when I miscarried again, we dealt with the emotions. We kind of figured it out. We regrouped. We hugged our baby. We just did what we needed to do to survive. We decided that we were going to try one more time, and if it ended in a miscarriage, then we knew that that was our way of knowing God telling us that we were only supposed to have one child. And we had made peace with that, and we decided this is what we're doing. So we ended up trying again, and we, lo and behold, got pregnant, and that pregnancy turned into our second. And I am so incredibly grateful that we decided to try one more time because we couldn't imagine our lives without our two boys. I understand that I am one of the incredibly lucky ones that did end up getting not only one rainbow baby, but two. And so I really want to convey the message of, even though you feel out of control and like giving up, sometimes miracles happen, and sometimes being able to continue to try and it works out. I know I'm kind of rambly. I'm so sorry. This is a lot of personal information that I am just putting out there, but do your best not to give up. And I know each person is different. Follow the advice of your medical doctor. Don't just go off of what I'm saying. Definitely talk to your medical professional and do what they say. I am just one person who has no medical background, so follow what your doctors and people are telling you. But I understand the want and feel like the need to give up. Like I said before, after my first miscarriage, I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want people to know about it. I was very ashamed that I felt like I did this. Even though logically I knew that wasn't right, but your brain goes through some pretty crazy things when you lose a baby. And so, again, I didn't want to talk about it. Now, after the third, I will talk about it with whoever needs to hear it, who wants to hear it. If you're willing to listen, I'm willing to talk. But I also understand that some people aren't there yet. And so do what you need to do to be healthy mentally and in order to come to peace and grips with what you're going through. I think the more that we talk about it and the more we normalize it, the easier it gets, and the more people can share their feelings and express what they're going through. I think back 50 to 100 years ago, I am sure no one spoke about this because they didn't. That was a private matter. You don't speak about private matters in public. But I just want to help make it a more normal conversation, so for a person who goes through this, they don't feel alone, because I promise you're not alone. Somebody else is dealing with it at the same time you are. Somebody has dealt with it before you did, and somebody will deal with it after you will. So let's try to make this conversation a little bit more normalized so that people don't feel alone when they're going through the literal hardest time of their lives. I think that I have shared everything that I wanted to with my personal experience with miscarriages and all of that. So now I will go through the rest of the video and kind of give tips and tricks on what I learned and the mistakes that I made in this video. It won't align with the video and the voice part, but y'all are smart people. Y'all can figure it out. And so I'm going to give you guys the tricks that I learned and the things that I think would make it easier in order to remake this cup. So for whatever reason, in my mind, this cup had to be a 30-ounce curved tumbler. I don't know why. It's going to be my cup, but it would have been much easier if I had chosen a 20-ounce straight. Your stencil vinyl is going to line up and not have wrinkles in it, and it's just going to lay a lot flatter, which means you're going to get better coverage, and you're not going to have like seepage underneath the stencil vinyl when you put it on, because there's a little crease here or because it won't lay flat, so it kind of puffs up. So the first thing that I would say is, if you're like me and it has to be a 30-ounce curvy, fine, do it. It turns out beautiful in the end, but it would be a whole lot easier without a curve and if it was just straight. So there's my first tip. Choose a cup that condones well to stencil vinyl as opposed to a curvy cup. A curvy cup. The next tip that I have for you is about the stencil. So with the stencil, you are creating this banner, or I got the banner from Design Space. I put it in Design Space, and then I got a square and I sliced it out, so then I had the square with the image out of it. What you want to do is, when you have that image in Design Space, it is giving you the image dimensions for the entire square, not just for the part that you are going to be coloring and glittering. So if you need to pay attention to how big the actual banner, the ribbon is, not how big your actual stencil is. So you will see right now, the stencil is hanging over the top of the cup. I, in the beginning, had to cut off a chunk of the bottom stencil so that the 1 in 4 part was able to go where it was supposed to go. It doesn't matter how big the stencil is. You want to pay attention to how big the actual ribbon, the blue and the pink part is, because that is what's going to be transferred to your cup, not how big the overall stencil is. Not sure if that made sense. I hope that it did, but make sure that the part that's going to be weeded out is big enough or small enough to fit on your cup where you want it to go. So back in the video when I was painting the blue and the pink part of the cup, you will notice that I had some paint sitting out and that I squeezed out and I started painting the cup. That paint was incredibly cheap paint, literally from the dollar store a couple years ago when I first started getting into crafting and tumbling and tumbler making and all that kind of stuff. It is terrible paint. My advice is, you'll see very quickly. I put a couple of brush strokes on and said, this isn't it. This is not going to give me the best coverage. It's not going to do what I need it to. So what I did instead was I shifted gears and I got a better paint. I got the Arteza acrylic paint, and I just use that paint. So because you're doing this on top of glitter, you want to make sure that you're getting good coverage. That way you get a good crisp coverage of your blue glitter, as opposed to having very light and maybe some of that silver showing through, or whatever you feel like your base color, whatever color you want to be on the base, shows through. So just make sure you use a good opaque colored paint. So you guys know how I feel about the epoxy method when adhering the glitter. That is my favorite way of doing it. For this cup specifically, I knew it was going to be easier to use the glitter glue. I definitely prefer to use the epoxy method, and maybe if it was on a straight cup I would have done it, but I knew that I had a lot of little pieces that were of the vinyl that was kind of sticking up because it was not adhered super flat because I didn't put it on a flat surface. I put it on a curved surface. So I then decided, after my first coat of paint, I decided to just use paint and the CrystaLac glitter glue in order to do my glittering. I first started off with my blue because it's the darker color. I put some glue into a little measuring cup. I tinted it with some of my paint and then just painted over it, and then immediately went in with my blue glitter. This glitter is from Walmart. Again, I got it a long time ago when I first started crafting. And then the pink glitter is from a local store here in Texas that I got, and I'll try to link it. And but if not, just use any pink or green glitter that you like. I used fine glitters because I thought that was going to be easiest. I think it would kind of look cool if you put in some chunkier glitter, but it would also make the process a lot harder. So, but I used the CrystaLac glitter glue method. I got pretty good coverage on it, but it would have been better with epoxy. I just didn't want to do it on this cup because I was afraid that some of the epoxy would leak through and all that good stuff. Here I am at the point where I'm putting on my final 2. I actually think that this took 3 layers because I had a little bit of pokey bits on that last layer. But here is the cup going through its last couple of rounds of epoxy. And as you guys can see, it turned out great. So here is the final product. This is an absolutely cute, gorgeous, I love this tumbler. Like I said, it is for me. I will be using it throughout October to spread the awareness of Miscarriage Awareness Month. Like I said before, leave any comments below if you have any questions on how I did things or what I did. And thank you guys for watching. Please like, subscribe, and share. Bye, guys. You can connect with me on social media with Facebook and Instagram, and you can also send me an email. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. But now it's time for you to watch the video that's suggested for you on the screen. Have a great day. Bye.